or provoking another war. I don't think that idea would be very popular among Americans at this particular moment. They are not really enjoying a very easy situation in Iraq, as they thought was the case when they began that intervention. That's why the previous report was more openly aggressive. Now they have to reserve those areas to the secret plans. But let me tell you that in this last report, they recognized how Cuba has advanced, and at the same time reflect a desperate effort to reinforce that embargo, notwithstanding the reality that nobody else is supporting it. For example, now, according to what Mr. Bush decided on July the 10th, no humanitarian items could come from U.S. churches to the Cuban National Council of Churches. That includes the Jewish community. They have been receiving traditionally support for their rights and their activities. The evangelicals, the Protestants, the Anglican Church, and the Jewish community from their U.S. counterparts. Now they cannot anymore. They are threatening to criminalize violations of the travel ban to Cuba. They are, in this last report, trying or threatening to undermine what they refer to as large-scale health care programs for foreigners in Cuba and elsewhere. What means that? That they have to recognize that at this moment, millions of people, González, had received free health care here in Cuba or in Venezuela, or are receiving it in Bolivia, in Ecuador, in Indonesia, in Pakistan, in Guatemala, all over the world, that there are 30,000 Cuban doctors abroad helping people to recover vision, to fight illness and so on. They recognize that, and they said that they will not permit exports of equipment that may help those programs. All of that is in that report that, unfortunately, has not been noticed in some U.S. media that keep talking about a so-called aid program for Cuba after the Castro regime doesn't exist anymore, and blah, 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 blah. In other words, you have a very peculiar administration in your country. People that do not accept reality and imagine that they can ignore reality and change it. Reality is that Fidel Castro was down there in Córdoba, in Argentina. Why? Because we were invited. Because Cuba has established an association with Mercosur. But he was together with a large number of heads of governments in South America, of the whole Mercosur group, and Michelle Bachelet, the president of Chile, who also attended. And they condemned, of course, the embargo again, and not just in words, but in action that are reflected in the strengthening of our economic and other links with them. By the way, since Monday, we have received messages from practically every government in Latin America expressing their concern and their solidarity with President Fidel Castro in his current situation, including a very beautiful message by President Lula that Cubans know, because it was published here yesterday. I don't know you know that in New York, but I think that one has to be absolutely out of his mind to believe that policy functions, that policy works. The word and the reality around the U.S. is showing that it is not the case. But even in America, even in the U.S., you have people that would like very much to expand trade with Cuba, to have more normal relations, or just to travel, to exercise that right, that now maybe even leading some people to a court to be accused, indicted of that serious crime. By the way, I hope you're aware, Juan, that they arrested a number of Puerto Ricans when they arrived in Mayagüez a few days ago. The crime having come to Cuba. Now it's a more serious crime, according to Mr. Bush.
No, I was not aware of those latest arrests. And thank you for informing me about that.
They traveled to Cuba via Dominican Republic, and apparently they went by boat from eastern Dominican to Mayagüez in the west part of Puerto Rico, and upon arrival there, they were... It's not exactly, they don't say that they are detained in a formal way, but they were detained. Upon arrival, they are being interviewed and so on, and they were notified that they did violate American law, and now, since July the 10th, they may be indicted and incarcerated, which is something that is crazy. It's easier to do that in Mayagüez because nobody will notice elsewhere, they hope.
Ricardo Alarcón, we only have 30 seconds, and we're going to be going to Beirut in a moment, but I wanted to ask about your comments quoted in Prensa Latina, calling the President Bush, a terrorist for what's happening in Lebanon right now. It was part of your condemnation of what you called the Israeli massacre in Cana.
Not only because that I visited Cana, I felt very moved to see that, again, the same story was repeated. But President Bush is a terrorist. His policy is terrorist. He was meeting last Monday in Miami with some very well-known terrorists. This Monday, 48 hours ago, he kept 5 young Cubans in detention, incarcerated. Next week, on August the 9th, will be 1 year after the Court of Appeals revoked the convictions of those people, but they remain in prison. And at the same time, you can watch on Miami TV or read in the Miami press how terrorist activities continue to be prepared, announced openly.
Who did President Bush meet with in Miami?
Sorry?
You said that President Bush met with terrorists in Miami when he was just there this week.
Ninosca Pérez Castellón, Armando Pérez Roura, they had breakfast on Monday, and he was on the air interviewing some of the most radical pro-terrorist programs in Miami.
And why do you call them terrorists? And why do you call them terrorists?
Because they are terrorists, because these people belong to groups that openly proclaim that they have... Have you heard about Mr. Yama? He was on Miami TV claiming that he had spent $1.4 million to buy weapons, including small light planes that can be teledirected for terrorist purposes. He says that in Miami, the same day that in Miami, half a dozen black people were arrested on the accusation that they were going to blow up the Sears Towers. And so this very same day, a guy, of course, a white millionaire, appeared on TV saying that. And then you have your president coming down there to have a meeting. Was a founding operation that he had the fundraising operation on Sunday and Monday. And I No, because that was published, that he had breakfast with some of them, Ninosca Pérez Castellón, a former leader of the Cuban American National Foundation, leader now of the so-called Cuban Liberty Council, that advocates openly military actions against Cuba, Armando Pérez Roura,
Ricardo Alarcón,
who has a daily program in the same view.
We're going to have to leave it there. We want to thank you very much for being with us. When we come back from break, we're going to
consider the possibility